so let's have a little talk, all right? Home theater for dummies. Now, I was watching a review of the new Google Chromecast with Google TV, and I found it kind of funny because the guy reviewing it was Joshua Vergara from his new YouTube channel. And I found something kind of embarrassing, which was he complains that the Chromecast can turn his TV on and off, but it won't do anything for his soundbar. And then I watched the home theater system and I watched the TV, and they were different brands. And you would think this would be obvious to somebody who's in the tech space, but apparently it's not. So I'm just going to go over this. A couple of years back, something was created called HDMI CEC, right? Consumer Electronic Control. The idea with this was if you had a TV and, say, a sound system that were connected by HDMI, the CEC standard will allow the TV to tell the sound system, hey, I am being turned on, you should turn on as well. So the consumer doesn't have to turn on a separate device for sound. And because you're using a dedicated sound system, you wouldn't want the built-in TV speaker to work, obviously. So when you use the TV's volume control, it would just pass that command along to your sound system, and your sound system would turn its volume up and down instead of the built-in TV speakers. In theory, this system is brilliant. It does not work. It is broken as hell between brands. If you've got the same brand, it works fine. If you've got different brands, it's hit and miss. Now, here's the thing, right? If you're buying a Samsung TV, I recommend you get a Samsung soundbar or one of Samsung's home theater systems, because I can guarantee you for sure it'll work. 99% of the time it will work, and if it doesn't, file a bug report to the company. They will push a software update to usually fix it. Sony has Bravia Sync. All these other companies, they have their own versions of this technology. They were actually using a system like this before HDMI CEC was formalized. However, this is one of those protocols where unless somebody forces them to test between brands, they're not going to. They're just going to use their own equipment, test between their own equipment, and that's all they're ever going to do. The funny thing about this list is out of all these companies, there's only one company here listed that makes both home theater receivers and LCD TVs and projectors. This guy. Yeah. Sony is the only company that makes home theater receivers as well as televisions. So if you've got, say, parents or anybody who isn't particularly tech savvy and you would like to do a nice sound system for them to go with their TV, but you don't want to go the soundbar route, but at the same time you can't do anything too complicated for them because they will just go cross-eyed and pass out, this is literally your only option. You get a Sony sound receiver, home theater receiver, not the 2-channel, this has no HDMI. You get anything above that, even their budget lines work just fine in my experience. This 5.2 setup is really nice. You have your TV out to ARC. That's the light gray HDMI port close to the middle of the top of the receiver. And then you just get a Sony television, Sony Bravia. You get that guy there. And yeah, once you plug the Sony Bravia into Sony's own home theater receiver, it works. Most of my equipment, I did like this because I wanted a dedicated home theater receiver and I wanted to run my own speakers. The cool thing about this is you don't have to use Sony speakers. You can literally use any receiver. And one of the lovely things about this particular receiver is, and well, it's true of most Sony receivers, is they're all dual subwoofer out, so you can really get the bass going if you so desire. All right, and I have to say that is one of the coolest things about them. Now, aside from that, what else do you need to know? Well, banana plugs are great. That's one. Two, on this particular receiver, there are only 2 sets of banana plugs. So if you're going to be unplugging and plugging in speakers regularly, this might get a little frustrating with the little clips. But if you're just doing a stereo setup, this thing is amazing. This particular receiver is the least expensive model they sell that can do home theater via HDMI. And this thing with a set of Yamo home theater speakers works exceptionally well. So the 803s with the matching sub, these sound absolutely phenomenal. You can buy them as a bundle minus the sub. I recommend you do that because this way you can get the 10-inch sub as opposed to the 8-inch sub. Klipsch owns Yamo as a brand, so these things skew towards the Klipsch sound signature. Very bright highs, very deep bass, but all in all, very satisfying. Yeah, not very true to form of the original intention of the artist, but you know, if you just want to have fun, this sounds amazing. If you do not like bright speakers, you steer clear of it. But if you don't mind, the bass and the heights and the overall package is super satisfying. And if again the person is, say, a parent or somebody who's very picky about the appearance of their speakers, this is the sub, the S10 sub. It is black. It is available in other colors if you can find it. It goes in and out of stock fairly quickly. But this thing hides really nicely. All the controls are actually under the sub. All of these are under the sub. It's not to the back. It's under the sub. You get a right-angled subwoofer cable with it, which is really nice, and a right-angled power cable. So you can hide this away in a nice corner next to a curtain or behind a curtain in my case. Looks great. I did a stereo setup for my mom. So I did the black with the brown trim, put that for my mom, and it sounds phenomenal. It comes on with the TV. It works perfectly. She never has to touch the receiver remote. She turns the TV on with the cable remote, which has been programmed to control the TV's power and volume. Once the TV's on, basically everything functions with the cable remote, which is a universal remote which I programmed to control the TV. The TV controls the home theater receiver, and it's basically automated from that point. So anybody looking for home theater gear and you want to run a receiver and you want it to be simple, Sony is pretty much your only option. Now, Samsung actually bought JBL. JBL owns Harman Kardon. All right. Last time I checked, JBL's Harman Kardon brand, their receivers do not work well HDMI CEC wise with Samsung's TVs. If Samsung actually makes the effort to have their Harman Kardon brand work with their Samsung TVs out of the box with no fiddling requires, essentially bring AnyNet Plus, which is Samsung's version of HDMI CEC. If Samsung can bring that to Harman Kardon, that would be phenomenal. I could, at that point, I could tell people, yeah, buy a Samsung TV, get an AnyNet compatible Harman Kardon receiver, and go to town with that. Currently, that does not exist, so too bad for that. On the other hand, you do have some exceptionally good Samsung soundbar slash home theater in a box solutions, which are Harman Kardon tuned, or is it Harman tuned? Anyway, one of the JBL, one of the Harman brands tunes them. They sound really good, they work really well, and as I say, once it's the same brand, Samsung soundbar, Samsung TV, you know, LG soundbar, LG TV, or LG projector. In the case of LG, they do some very lovely LED projectors. You can just single press one device on and everything comes on, and that is a huge save. So, you know, if anybody's buying equipment, I always tell them, spend a little less on the TV and throw in like a 200 bucks and get a basic soundbar in that same brand, because that'll sound way better than the built-in TV speakers, and you know, you cover sound one time. If you're going to buy something after the fact, again, stick to the same brand as your TV. It just makes life that much easier. But that said, doing that is getting a bit harder because say you want to buy a CEC compatible Blu-ray player. Some companies have dropped out of the Blu-ray market. I think Samsung might be one of them. I don't know if LG is dropped. I know Sony is still doing Blu-ray players, but it's one of those platforms that it's dying a slow death because streaming is just good enough. So you've got to take that into account too, because again, if you want the CEC functionality to work with the Blu-ray player, hey, when I press the power button on my Blu-ray player, I want my TV to come on and I want my soundbar to come on at the same time. You're not going to get that with mismatched brands. And again, it's one of those things where it's a standard, but it's a poorly enforced standard. In my honest opinion, power and volume should be tested between brands not just within a particular brand's existing product set. And especially manufacturers like Yamaha, like Harman Kardon, who do receivers, but they themselves don't do TVs. They really need to put the effort into doing the research on all the other companies' CEC commands and programming their receivers appropriately. I know for a fact I've used Bose sound systems with Samsung TVs and they work near perfectly. Same thing with LG. Bose apparently does do the research on their receivers, as proprietary and as overpriced as they are. At the very least, they should work with your well-known branded TVs. Don't try using some weird Chinese brand no one's ever heard of. Chances are that never works because in my experience, it just does not. But use well-known brands, LG, Samsung, Sony, even Sharp. Those tend to work pretty well with CEC functionality from, Bose. But I have no experience with Yamaha. I have no experience with Harman Kardon. With different brands of TVs, I just don't have the resources to do them. If anybody has experience using a particular brand of receiver with a particular brand of TV and at least volume and power work, please post in the comments. It would be a great help to anybody else researching this topic. If not, well, best of luck, but my point still stands. Thanks for listening. Hope this helps.